on this feast of Saint Maximilian Kolbe, which is today, August 14th. Here at the National Shrine, we're celebrating something special, something unusual from the perspective of our world, maybe extraordinary, but we're celebrating a commitment, a celebration of perpetual vows of Brother John. Over the years, John bound himself gradually to the congregation through temporary profession, as all of us know. But today, he wishes to offer himself in a complete consecration to God and the Church through perpetual vows. My question is, why would anyone wish to make perpetual vows? Poverty, chastity, and obedience in today's world. Why would anybody wish to do something like that? You know, commitment for life in our society is questioned at best. Our culture is not supportive of lifelong commitments to anything. People of today prefer to just try that, try this, try that, and if you don't like it, move on. Why would anybody wish to do something like this, to commit himself for life? You know, so from the perspective of our culture, you know, this act of saying yes to God in a perpetual commitment is truly countercultural, because it's not what our culture wants to show us. And so it is in many ways extraordinary, not because our culture does not appreciate it or does not see any value in it, but because John was also happy in his professional life as a healthcare professional. He was happy in what he was doing. And in the midst of his life, mature life, something comes up, and why would he want to respond to God in that way? He was successful. He was a successful professional. He had everything, home, and he loved art. He loved great furniture. He loved everything that this life were to offer. And so right in the midst of what would be considered, you know, attaining that which people desire, you know, work, you enjoy your work, and then you enjoy your life. And yet something was going on inside of his heart which knocked on his door, and the door of his heart. And so he responded. He responded with kind of giving his whole heart, because he started, you know, giving his things away, started wearing things which were not exactly the latest and the best and the most good looking. And so he started doing something which he wanted to imitate Christ in his poverty. He wished to be like Christ, even though he had many things, but he wanted to let go of things. We know vows, according to St. John Paul II, vows has a nuptial meaning, because that means you respond to Christ. And that's what motivated him. Somehow Christ, his love for Christ, moved his heart to say yes and enter into a deeper relationship with him. Today's readings, which John chose, speak continuously of the messianic mission of Christ. Messianic mission. What is that messianic mission? You respond to God, the Father, through an act of love on behalf of others. Not that it's simple, not that it's easy, but you recommit yourself. You rejoice with those who rejoice. You weep with those who weep. You give and offer even to your enemies food if they're hungry, or drink if they're thirsty. You choose a way of life that is sometimes not only difficult, but sometimes we have to go against the very nature of who we are, because we kind of say, with injustice, I should do this. Injustice, I should respond that way. But God is stretching us. The justice that God seeks from us is the justice of Jesus Christ, who died for us on the cross, even though he was innocent. He was not guilty, yet he chose a path of life to respond to us in a very different way. And that is that messianic mission in which we are participating. This is what John is seeking today, to make a permanent commitment to live this way of life. You know, John has been assisting many, here at the shrine especially, but not only. I think as priests sometimes, John, right in the middle of, Sunday, which is usually a very busy day, or Saturday or so other, he would come and he would say, Father, I've got someone for you. He would check out the people who were broken. He would speak to them, and then he would call us if there was an additional need that we could assist. And I'll never forget, one Sunday I was trying to do something which quickly I needed to do, and John knocks on my door in my office, and he was sitting there, and he says, Father, I've got this family, and this child, 1-year-old boy, who has cancer, and they're really in distress. Could you somehow come on and see if you could do something? But at any rate, this child was 1-year-old child who had cancer, not only in his lungs, but also in his bones. The family did not know what to do, whether they should go with the procedure, which is radiation therapy. Radiation would have disintegrated all the bones of the little boy, so you could extend life. But what type of life would it be? Probably in much pain of that little boy. And so at any rate, we prayed, John prayed, I prayed through the intercession of our founder who is here. And would you believe the Lord granted a complete healing? It was a 5. I have all the situation on my phone. The messages are still there. But lo and behold, about a month ago, the family came back, and the little boy came back. He's 5 years old now, running around, precocious little. And John and myself and others who have met him and saw him, what happened? There's no sign of anything. The reason, when he was healed, there's not even dead cells of cancer were not even found in his bones. But this is how it is. He noticed them. He saw them in distress. He wanted to do something more, just talk, to pray. That's how our mission of Christ is. We don't prepare ourselves for our work. We just happen to be there. We happen to be there, and somehow God calls us, and He wants us to respond. And so to rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep, help those who are in need, messianic mission of Christ. And that's what John wanted to do. It wasn't just because he was not helping people who were already sick, but somehow he wanted to do a little bit more. And so in our culture that is progressively more intolerant of religious values, that gives very little space to God and for God, and where even followers of Christ stumble and fall and give poor witness to others. But we cannot, despite the weaknesses, we cannot say that the mission of Christ is less important today than yesterday. We cannot say that the mission of Christ will be less important tomorrow than today. We see that the world kind of is running away, and we see more and more difficulties. People are confused. They seem to be more under the influence of the evil one more than others today, or at least the disorders that we experience within our hearts, they seem to be so prevalent. And we draw these wrong conclusions. We don't even know why we suffer, because we are not aware that sin is the cause of our suffering. We don't even know why we are doing what we're doing, sometimes because we're just reacting to things rather than thinking through and following the mission of Christ. And this is what John wanted to do. He wanted to give the answer to the people who are sometimes lost along the way, sometimes so confused or hurting that they do not know where to turn. But we know that that's what our life is. Where does our religious life come from? Where does it get its vigor? Where is it renewed each day? It comes from, and its source is Christ, the infinite power of God's love, the infinite power of His graciousness, of the gifts that He gives. He sends us the Holy Spirit. He sends us the sacrament. He gives us the sacraments. He gives us Himself. And the only thing that he asks us is welcome him. And as the more we receive, the more we should give. Welcome him into our hearts to be refreshed, rebuilt each day, rebuilt by him who is infinite in love, infinite in grace. So our renovator spoke that the idea of our religious life is what? To know, love, and imitate Christ more and more from day to day. To be imbued with and directed by his Spirit. To spread his kingdom with all our strength and to bring Christ into everything to such a degree that one day we might say with the Saint Apostle Paul, it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. No longer I, but Christ who lives in me. So we are to put on Christ. That is, we must deepen our commitment to life and to live the Paschal mystery of his death and resurrection, into which we are baptized and which we have more fully expressed by religious consecration. And that's why that gospel today, Jesus says, are you willing to drink of the cup that I am to drink? Are you willing? They say yes, the cup you shall drink. But whether to be on the right or left of God's glory, of his kingdom, it is not up to me. Jesus says it's up to the Father. And sometimes that's what we have. We may wish something like the mother of the Zebedee sons, but the Lord somehow gives us something different. He asks us to participate in his suffering, yes, that in the Paschal mystery, but then he also asks us, okay, welcome what I will give you. It's the Father's gift to you. It is even Jesus says, not mine, but is the Father's. It is very interesting, very powerful to hear that, because many times in our life we may wish for something, we may desire something, and yet it's the Lord who somehow gives us what we need, and what the church needs, and what the people of God need, and what our mission is to be. It's God's gift. So the self-emptying that is required of us by the Evangelical Councils puts to death the old self, which is the sinful, and with its sinful ways, and continually makes way for the new self that has been created in God's way, in the goodness and holiness of truth. So it is the source, Christ is the source, the Holy Spirit gives us gifts, and we are to be renewed each day, and to limit the effects of the sinful man within us, the old Adam, which continues to live. And even St. Paul says, I don't know why I do the things which I don't know that I should not do, or I don't do the things which I know I ought to do. What's wrong with me? What a miserable man I am. And the only answer he has is because the old Adam is still within us. It hasn't been completely purified, cleansed. It has been refreshed, renewed. So let us allow ourselves to be guided by the Holy Spirit, who moves our hearts, who gives us the very vocation we have, helping us to mature into a positive response and sustaining us each day, translating that fidelity into daily life, day by day. Along the way, we also know as the one who has called us, and she is the one who supports us, and as our Immaculate Mother, the mystery of the Immaculate Conception, which we profess as Marians, that be also a sustaining element for you, Brother John, and for all of us. That mystery of the Immaculate Conception means the mystery of God's love for humanity. He chose our Blessed Mother to be an instrument to give life to his own Son, so that the incarnation may take place through her. The mystery of the Immaculate Conception is the mystery of God's mercy for the world, which he bestowed through Our Lady, and he has given us through his Son. She's always there. She's supposed to be for us a sign, strength, and joy of our Marian vocation. Sign, strength, and joy, because we know that God is at the bottom of it all. That God will not leave us untended. That God will always be there for us. That no matter what, he will be there. And so this is our life, our mission. And finally, I'd like to share something that you, John, wrote when you petitioned for this vows. He says, I'm writing my original application. In writing my original application, I recall saying that I wanted to open the doors of the church wide for all those coming home to church, perhaps coming back for the first time. I wanted to be there to be a sign of the welcome to the home of God. And this was even before I knew these were the words of St. John Paul II. It is providential that I should have found my home, as it were, on the steps of the shrine, greeting and welcoming pilgrims to this magnificent chapel. I have found no less of a home in the rooms of hospitals with patients in local facilities, making their needs my prayers. I am exceptionally thankful for those faithful I have met in the various parishes I visited, assisting with Marian mission activities to see the effects of the messages of Mary's care and the mercy of God that have been spread by those, while certainly faithful, still who hunger for more and more. And so I am grateful too for the many opportunities availed to me to introduce pilgrims to the powerful beauty and spirituality of our magnificent shrine, and to the same deeply rooted all around these great grace grounds of the shrine. So I have spent my life serving, from teaching to nursing, and now in hope of serving God through the service to His people. I have sought purpose in my life, always searching for the deeper, broader purpose, because my life had to mean something, to do something, and service was the only thing that seemed to make sense of me. There's more things, beautiful things that you wrote in a letter. I think that letter, or at least the words, perhaps could be made available to others. But what I read and what I understand is that all of the things that you wish for and the things that you did not wish for will be given by the Lord for the greater glory of His name, for the salvation of souls. And with this commitment today, and you're making this commitment with that full maturity of yours, because you're a mature man, you want to say yes and you want to commit yourself. May the Lord bless your commitment. May He make it fruitful. May it bring forth many into the fold. May through your words, through your example, through your fidelity to God, may it make many people realize that they're loved by God, that they are particularly and peculiarly His own, and that even though they may not see it, may not fully understand, but that is the truth of that messianic mission of Christ, the truth that He came to save us all, to bring into fold. And under the banner of Our Lady, may you be able to complete this race and fulfill your life. And so that one day all of us and the many that you have served will be found in His kingdom, sharing in the banquet of life and in joys that will last forever.